Welcome everybody. This afternoon, Strategic Planning Committee with just the one item. First on the agenda, membership of the committee. Has anybody heard anything from Councillor Thompson? I know he wasn't at full council yesterday. No. Apart from that, as printed. Minutes of the previous meeting, can we pass those as a true record? Thank you. Item 3. Any interests or lobbying? Start with Councillor Sokol.
None, Chair.
Councillor Davis.
No, none for me.
Councillor Patterson.
None, Chair.
Councillor Armour.
None, sir.
Councillor Pinnett.
None, Chair.
And none from me. This is a public meeting. We are on YouTube and webcast. Item 5. Any public questions?
No questions, Chair.
Item 6, any deputations or petitions?
No deputations or petitions, Chair.
Right. Into planning applications then. This is the one you'll be familiar with it. Bradley Villa Farm, Bradley Road at Huddersfield, and it's Victor.
Thank you, Chair. Victor Grayson, Majors and Minerals team. Just as a reminder to members, this is an application for a residential development of 277 dwellings at the Bradley Villa Farm part of the HS11 allocated site. This application relates to approximately a fifth, the western fifth, of that allocated site. For this application, members have previously seen a position statement in July last year and a report in July of this year, when officers recommended deferral in light of the applicant's request for more information justifying the recommended Section 106 contributions. That was the only recommended reason for deferral, and members deferred their decision in accordance with that recommendation. As set out in the committee report for today's meeting, the applicant has now has considered the information provided by officers at their request and has now agreed to all of the Section 106 obligations set out in the committee report. It's therefore now recommended that the application can be determined, and approval of permission is recommended subject to conditions in the Section 106 agreement. Members, I should just mention that since that committee meeting in July of this year, the Council has received a request for call-in of the application. The Council has received notification from the Secretary of State for Levelling Up Housing and Communities that the application be called in. That's not an unusual request. We have received those on quite a few applications in the last couple of years. So the recommendation that's in the committee report does reflect that request. There was a discussion of relevant planning issues at the meeting in July of this year, and there was also a full presentation given at that meeting, which I won't go through today in full, given that the same members are in attendance today. But I think it might just be useful, Chair and members, just to recap a few things about the site. First of all, members will recall it's in agricultural use and includes some greenbelt land down towards the M62, and Shepherd's-Thorne Lane forms the application site's eastern boundary. Members have already seen these views of the site from the west and from Shepherd's-Thorne Lane. This is a view of the site from Bradford Road, where vehicular access already exists, and also seen here is the Council's preferred option for the Cooper Bridge Highway Improvement Scheme. Apologies if this is too rapid, but I'm flicking through these slides. This shows the 2017 master plan prepared by the Council, and also the applicant's indicative master plan for the entire HS11 allocated site. Shown here is the problematic layout that was proposed by the applicant when the application was submitted last year, and members saw this layout in July last year when 270 units were proposed. That's been superseded, and shown here now is the latest proposed 277 unit development with a much improved layout. As mentioned in July, this scheme, as now proposed, has addressed earlier layout, design, landscape, highways, unit size mix and other concerns. And to the right of this slide are a selection of some of the 17 house types proposed by the applicant. Drainage infrastructure is still proposed in the part of the application site that is within the Greenbelt. These aspects of the development are considered acceptable. They have, I should mention, members, there have been a few minor tweaks to this layout since July to address a flood routing concern, and the lead local flood authority have submitted revised comments confirming that they're satisfied with the proposals. Subject to conditions in the recommended Section 106 agreement, the proposals are also considered acceptable in relation to environmental impact assessment, sustainability, site stability, minerals, contaminated land, odour, archaeology, biodiversity, impacts upon the setting of a nearby listed building, amenity, and the nationally described space standards. Now, just picking up on a few of the queries raised by members in July, although answers were provided at the time, I thought it would be useful, members, for you to see this enlarged image of the proposed Bradford Road junction. Members should be able to see in that image the right turn lane proposed within Bradford Road, which would enable northbound traffic to enter the site. And then these are enlarged images of the, on the left, the proposed location of a new toucan crossing that would be provided on Bradford Road in connection with the development. And on the right is the indicative Bradley Bar roundabout improvement scheme previously seen in July, to which the applicant would be required to contribute. There were also queries in July about Shepherdstone Lane. So here is an enlarged image on the left of the southernmost entrance to the site, which would only be accessible to pedestrians and cyclists. There was a question in July regarding who currently uses Shepherdstone Lane. In terms of vehicular access, its use is limited to that of the residents of two properties either side of its junction with Bradley Road, and by the residents and tiling contractor, Metcalfe's, based at Shepherdstone Farm, and it's also used for golf course maintenance. Otherwise, Shepherdstone Lane is used by hikers, dog walkers, cyclists and horse riders. On the right here is an enlarged image of the point where the proposed spine road would meet Shepherdstone Lane. No vehicular connection other than for emergency access is proposed here, and members should just be able to make out the bollards that are proposed there. Therefore, in relation to vehicular traffic, the situation for existing users of Shepherdstone Lane would remain unchanged, except for in emergency situations. 55 affordable housing units representing a policy-compliant 20% provision are proposed, as shown here. And then finally, this image shows the distribution of the proposed materials, subject to conditionable details, acceptable materials are proposed. In summary, and to conclude or to recap, subject to conditions including two amendments to the conditions set out in yesterday's committee update and the Section 106 agreement, the obligations of which are now agreed by the applicant, the proposed development is considered acceptable and approval of full planning permission is recommended. Thank you.
Thanks, Victor. Right, we've got no speakers today, but we've got the agent and some officers from Redrow if there's any questions that need to be answered. So, members, it's over to you. Andrew.
Thank you, Chair. I have a number of questions that I want to ask, and please excuse me because I wasn't here at the last meeting. Some of these may have been dealt with. I do come past this junction quite regularly every time I come into Huddersfield, so I am very familiar with it. There are occasions when traffic queues back beyond the junction that we've got here, and I know when I was here before that there was reassurance that the road could take it. I am still slightly concerned, however, that if there are queues coming up to Bradley roundabout and therefore across this new junction, that anybody coming the other way and wanting to turn into the site may well cause a queue on the bit of the road leading away from the roundabout where people are just accelerating away from the roundabout. I just sort of reassurance on that point, really. One of the other things that I don't think has been made clear is what is the future of the farm shop and indeed the farm, because there is an exit very close to the roundabout, which not an entrance, but people do come out of there occasionally. I'd just like reassurance on all those points, if possible, please.
Thank you, Chair. I got the same concern as Councillor Pinnick said about right turning into the new housing state. We all know the Bradford Road is very busy. I know it's a 30-mile-an-hour speed over near the roundabout, but there's still a lot of cars coming. So I got same concern about when the people might turning right, it might be queue there because oncoming traffic we won't get way into that. So we need to look at again, or in future we need to put it right. Yeah, I'm not going to say it should be done now in the future, but I think that we should have some sort of condition if we experience some queues building up there. So there should be some responsibility either to the developer or to the highways. Yeah. Second, Chair, affordable houses, 55 affordable houses. I might be wrong. I could not find anywhere. Is the 55 will be in one unit or will be spread over? Sorry? Spread out. All right. Yeah, that would be better. And I would like to put on one. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it was just on the social rented units again as well. Am I to read that certainly looks like a block of flats to the right-hand side anyway of the site? I can't. I mean, it looks like quite a few car parking spaces and then a block of flats. I mean, are they just flats or are they elderly flats or what?
Well, thanks through you, Chair. Just on the future of the farm and farm shop, members, you'll note that maybe if I put the screen up again, that the farm buildings, farm shop and farmyard are not included in the application site. As far as we know, the farmer does still intend to carry on farming and still intends to run the farm shop. The farmer, I believe, does own several fields further to the north of this application site, so not all of his or his family's land would be developed. And that's despite the farmyard and area covered by the farm buildings being within the site allocation HS11. So the farmer could have sold that land to Redrow, but has chosen not to. And there would still be, hopefully, you can see, I'll just go to the right slide, just where my cursor is, there's a farm access existing there. That's behind the houses on Bradford Road. That would be maintained. And so, yeah, farm traffic would be able to cross over the Spine Road at that point. And we have looked into the safety of that issue. Highways colleagues will comment on that further if need be, but that is located far enough away from the Bradford Road junction for it to be sufficiently safe. Affordable housing units, the spread of them is shown in this drawing. And in answer to the question about the block of flats, the social rented flats, they are simply described as social rent flats. They haven't been described as specifically for a certain group of people or for older residents. So through you, Chair, I'll hand over to Highways colleagues to answer the other questions.
Sorry, Chair, can I just quickly come back on the social rented? How many of them, I mean, not because obviously there's not 30 yellow dots here. How many of them are flats and how many are houses?
I'll just have to go to my figures. Sorry, bear with me. So of the 55 affordable housing units, 7 will be one-bedroom apartments or masonettes, 24 will be two-bedroom apartments or houses, 22 would be three-bedroom houses, and 2 would be four-bedroom houses. There is an even more detailed breakdown provided at paragraph 10.143 of the committee report, which then breaks down that distribution by tenure as well. Thank you, Chair.
Through you, Chair. It's Adam Darwin, Highway Development Management. Just in terms of the access, it's been modelled for this phase of development for the 277 units, but it's also there's been sensitivity modelling undertaken for traffic modelling for the full site allocation. Now, based on that modelling, it suggests that there's going to be adequate storage space in the right turn lane that's proposed, so that there's space for in excess of 6 cars to queue in the right turn lane to turn into the site. So there shouldn't be any issues with blocking of the northbound lane if those vehicles have to wait to turn right. So yeah, the traffic modelling does show that it can work within capacity. But there's also land being retained or that will be included in the adoption either side of the site access, which would allow the junction to be improved further at a later date should it need to be. So yeah, there is adequate storage space to allow those vehicles to wait. If there was issues with queuing traffic southbound blocking the access, there would be scope to provide keep clear markings as well, which would allow traffic to turn right in that queuing traffic if need be. But that's not currently deemed necessary, but that could be installed later if required.
Just a question on, you said there's land being kept. If there needs to be some work, at whose cost would that work be done in the future?
That will be if any further upgrade to that access was required for any later phases. The land basically to the back of the cycle footways that are proposed, the verges, so the full extent of the land ownership is being incorporated into the highway. That would allow flexibility to change that junction in future, which could potentially be a signalisation of that access if it was deemed necessary.
So it would be at the council's cost?
It would be, sorry, it would be for the later phases of development if it's required. However, the access has been modelled for the full allocation, and based on that modelling, it is adequate in its current form.
Thank you, Chair. Generally speaking, I'm in favour of this development. I'd just, however, like to look at the conditions, particularly condition. Well, what will be condition 3? It's the third dot down, which talks about construction management plan and engagement with local residents. I have some experience now of dealing with a different developer on a different site. And to my way of thinking, and this is just a message to the local ward members, really, that some impetus from local members might be necessary, because my experience with the one we have been dealing with is that they're not always very active in coming forward. I mean, I still think it's a good idea because there's nothing worse than a site being developed where the people on the site get up the noses of local residents and cause a lot of annoyance. That is not an ideal circumstance. So anything that will enable the two to talk to each other in an active sense, not just when they're told to, it should be done actively. I don't think require any change in what the wording will be for this condition. But I'm just saying that some involvement of ward members and some knowledge of planning officers writing these conditions needs to take this into consideration. Thank you. Cheers.
Yep, thanks. Yep, as Councillor Pinnock says, I'm certainly supportive of this application. I think the work that's been done on the Section 106 agreement is excellent, and congratulate the officers on that. I think certainly impressive, and also it's good to see the developer participating and collaborating on this. Also, I think I mentioned previously before, particularly like the inclusion of air source heat pumps, which is something clearly we would like to see all developers adopting now, even though we've got no ability to ensure that they do that. But certainly in the current circumstances with climate change, that's also essential. I would be happy to move this, but just coming back to that one point, and maybe it's the minor point, but is there any option of putting something in there to ensure that any costs of any further road changes, if there was congestion, can be a condition that's put in here in terms of the developer covering it?
Victor?
Thank you, through you, Chair. Yeah, I think, not to contradict my colleague from Highways, but the rest of the HS11 site is council owned, so if the council wanted to release that land and enable it, it is the responsibility of the council to carry out further works at the Bradford Road junction if they prove necessary, unless the council, as landowner of the rest of the HS11 site, required its developer partner to pay for that work, which would be appropriate. That's been done at other sites where local authorities have been the landowner, but then have brought in developer partners to actually carry out the work. And that might be the case here at HS11. The rest of the HS11 site isn't as far progressed as the privately owned part of the site. Colleagues in Housing Growth are working on proposals for the rest of the site, and we can certainly relay that concern to them. We can say, well, members are concerned that the costs of any further works that might prove necessary at this junction should be borne out by whichever developer partner is brought on board.
I think, Chair, on that, if that's included as a condition on that basis, I'd be happy to move officer's recommendation on this application.
Sorry, through you, Chair. We wouldn't recommend it be a condition on on this permission, but it is something we would, if members want us to, relay to the Housing Growth team.
So we wouldn't be able to do it as a condition, but it could be part of the conversation.
Correct.
And that's the best we can do. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, it is. Okay, I'll still move on that basis then.
Right, thanks, Paul. Right. Moved by Councillor Davis. Is there a seconder? Councillor Patterson.
Sorry, Chair, can I just say we need to make reference to the update. There is one condition deleted and one additional condition marked. So in the recommendation, we should say, and the matters contained in the update, which aren't crucial, but just for...
Yeah? You all right with that? Yeah? Right, you've no need to put your microphone on. Matt will put it on for you when you're voting. And we'll go to a vote.
Councillor Armour. Can you put your microphone? Thank you.
Right, reluctantly for.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson?
Against.
Councillor Sokol?
For.
Councillor Davies?
For.
Councillor Patterson?
For.
Councillor Pinner?
For.
Councillor Hall?
For.
Thank you, that's clear and carried.
Thanks, Sheila. Right, members,
The rest of the days you're out.
that's it. Thank you for coming and we'll see you next time.